Hello and welcome to Dingoes Ate My Podcast. I'm Paul,
And I'm Dave.
and this week we're discussing the episode Destiny. This episode originally aired November 19th, 2003, attracting approximately 3.96 million viewers. And this would also be the last episode that would air in 2003. Alrighty, so let us start off with the number one movie at the box office this week, Dave.
Let's see.
I would say that this is pretty much seasonally appropriate.
Okay, because my first thought was whether or not Matrix would stick in the top spot from there. But
Like,
now that you say it's a bit
like
more seasonally appropriate,
personally, I would rather this have been like a week or two later, like 2 or 3 weeks later, because it's a little early for a Christmas movie for me, but it's not completely out of touch.
no, it's understandable. But I think it's a question of which one it is, because the first one that comes to my mind was the Santa Claus 2, but I'm not sure if that's it.
Oh, Santa Claus 2, I want to say is early. I want to say that's like 2001 ish.
Okay, earlier than that. But I don't think 3 came out at around this time.
Santa Claus 2 was 2002.
Hey.
I'll give you a hint. You asked me for a copy of this movie recently.
Oh, it's around that time, isn't it? It's the introduction of Elf.
It is Elf with $26.325 million dollars at the box office in its second weekend, which is interesting.
Understandable. Though, I guess it might have been the case of when it first came out, the couple people saw it and it's like, oh man, this kind of works. And then everyone and their grandma was like, oh man, it's starting to become the Christmas season. Let's go see the Christmas movie.
Alrighty, so I'm going to quickly just list off the movies that are going to be number one before the next episode, because I figure we may as well do that now.
Yeah.
The next 2 weekends, oh god. The next 2 weekends, number one would be The Cat in the Hat.
Understandable, but additionally, ugh.
It's not understandable, that was a dreadful film. The week of December 7th would be The Last Samurai.
That's understandable.
The week of December 14th would be Something's Gotta Give.
Not familiar.
It's like a Jack Nicholson. I want to say it's Jack Nicholson, like Keanu Reeves or something.
Eh.
Then some other folks. I don't remember who else is in it. Who else is in this? It's a rom-com starring Jack Nicholson, Diane Keaton, and Keanu Reeves, a whole bunch of other people.
No.
The week of December 21st and 28th would be a little film called The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King.
Because, of course.
Yeah, those movies never made any money. And then that would keep its number one place until we come back
Radios.
into the new year. Alrighty, so let us quickly do number one song in America this week.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was still from last week. But again, every time I just completely forget about it, aside from it being sung by Beyonce.
It is a little song called "Baby Boy" by Beyonce featuring Sean Paul. And again, I'll quickly list what comes out, what tops it eventually. December 6th, a song called "Stand Up" by Ludacris featuring Shauna. December 13th, 20th, and 27th, those particular weeks, there's a little song called "Hey Ya" by Outkast. I'm sorry,
No,
that is now
that's
stuck in your head.
completely understandable.
And that would get us to the end of the year.
No, that's completely understandable. So, out of curiosity, do you know the Hey Ya song?
Yes, and it's now stuck in my head.
Indeed, it's the same with me.
Yes. Alrighty, so let us get on to video games because by God do we have a lot. Okay. November 19th, when this episode aired, if you were a PC gamer, you could pick up a little game called Beyond Good and Evil.
Ah, yes. That's the fun with the games.
Yes. Also on November 19th, if you're an Xbox gamer, you could pick up a little game called Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, which is a terrible title, but I remember that game being pretty good.
It was like training as Jedi gameplay in school sort of setting, supposedly.
Um, kind of, if I remember correctly. You like get to pick your own, like you get to like make a character, and then I think you have to like go through the academy and stuff. I don't remember. I haven't played this game probably since it came out.
Yeah.
I think there were like missions you had to do. This might have even been a sequel. I want to say that this was like part of a series, but I don't remember. It's been a long time. November 20th, an infamous game came out. I'm not going to say it's a good one, but it's infamous. If you were a if you're a PC gamer, you could go to the store and pick up the Holy Grail, also known as Big Rigs Over the Road Racing.
Yes. Like at first my brain was like, oh, saying the one thing, it might be this game, but it's like, wait, no, that wasn't released until the PS3, which was a couple years later. It's like, what is he talking about? And then you said the actual title, and it's like, oh, that makes more sense. And I'm very sad now.
Big rigs should always make you happy, Dave.
But it's the thing with the stuff, and they tried, but it was terrible. They didn't put any effort in it, and the why.
And you can reverse into like light speed. Okay, for anybody who doesn't know what Big Rigs is, it's a terrible like 18-wheeler racing game, and like the game's really really bad. There's basically no physics in it. But my favorite part of the game is if you go in reverse, there's no limit to how fast you can go.
Because when you're first designing the game as a racer, you kind of need to decide how fast the particular things go forward and reverse.
It's so good. Anyway, November 24th, if you had a Game Boy Advance, you could pick up a little game called, and I'm probably going to butcher this, Dragon Ball Z Taiketsu? I don't know.
Again, supposed yay, but again, it's kind of typical Dragon Ball supposed fighter. Or was this the RPG?
I would assume it's a fighter, but I have no idea. Yeah, fighting game. Yep.
No, not understandable.
It did not review well, though, so.
Again, tried to get it onto a handheld system, but only so much power that it has in comparison to Budokai.
Yes. November 25th, if you were an Xbox player, you could pick up a little game called Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne.
Yes, where we discover that Max Payne is an actual person, and he's suffering through all the killing and the stuff that he had to go through.
Yes. Max Payne is a series I wish would get, the Resident Evil style remakes, because I would love to play those games.
On the one hand, it would be interesting, but on the other hand, they'd most likely need to hire several other writing teams to try and get this story together.
Yeah, I don't. I've started playing the first one a bit, but I found it very difficult to control on PC. Anyway, moving on. Still on November 25th, if you're a PC gamer, you could pick up a little game called Mysterious Journey 2.
How mysterious was it, Paul?
I've never played this game. And it got super weird review scores. Yeah, I've never heard of this game. Because, one publication, Computer Games Magazine, gave it 3.5 stars, and PC Gamer gave it 36%. So I don't know what that means. Some people hated it, some people love it. I've never played this, though. On November 26th, if you had a GameCube or an Xbox, you could pick up a little game called Blowout, which is like a 2.5D side-scrolling run-and-gun shooter.
Supposed neat? But, I've got nothing.
It designed to be kind of like a Contra or Metal Slug, but it wasn't very good, apparently.
Yeah, so sad.
November 30th, if you're a PC gamer, you could finally pick up Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time.
Finally! And see how you could supposedly wreck the game with all the PC powers.
Yes. December 1st, if you had a GameCube, Nintendo was like, we haven't completely owned the market for about 2 weeks at this point. Let's drop a little game called 1080 Avalanche.
Yes, because it is the winter times and people need to snowboard in the video games.
Although I don't think this game ever did terribly well, I remember it being quite fun.
Understandable when it comes to snowboarding. As long as there's a snowboarding, it's always fun.
Yes. We never got a sequel to this. Like we only got the two, and I wish we got more
Eh,
because those were fun games. Anyway, December 2nd, if you had an Xbox, you could pick up Beyond Good and Evil.
finally.
December 2nd, if you're a PC gamer or you had an Xbox, you could pick up a little game called Deus Ex Invisible War.
Okay, they think I got it. It's a case of titling. It's a little bit weird, but I believe it's Deus Ex.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Deus Ex. Yeah, yeah. My mistake. It's the sequel to the original.
Yes. So it's a case of I never really got into the series until the one version that came out on the Xbox 360.
Oh, you've never played, like, the original games?
No, not the originals, no.
Oh, you should definitely play Deus Ex. Even your computer can run it, Dave. They're a lot of fun. At least I remember them being a lot of fun. Again, haven't probably played this game in at least 15 years.
Yeah.
Also on December 2nd, if you're a PS2 gamer, you could pick up Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne.
Yes, you can finally see the terribleness of Max Payne's downfall.
Yes, and it was a good time. December 2nd, if you were a Xbox or Game Boy Advance player, which is a weird combination, you could pick up Mission Impossible Operation Surma.
Supposed neat, but I'm thinking it's a case that the Mission Impossible series has kind of been low with how things have kind of been going.
I feel like we never really get games for it. Like there was one on the N64, and then there were these ones, and I don't remember any other ones really.
Yeah, no, like I've only vaguely remember them doing the rebooted movies and whatnot coming up, but aside from that, video game wise, there hasn't been much.
No, and I feel like it's a franchise that you should be able to make games out of. Like it should be pretty easy, but for whatever reason, it never really happened. Alrighty. So also on December 2nd, if you were a GameCube owner, you could pick up a little game called Pac-Man Versus.
Yes, again, it comes to mind, but gameplay wise, I'm not sure how it played.
Um, it was, if I remember correctly, it's a Pac-Man game where like one player is Pac-Man and then other players are the ghosts, and you use like the Game Boy Advance link cable. Like Pac-Man has to play on a GBA so they can see the entire map, I think, and then the ghost can only see like parts of the screen.
Yes, because it was around this time when they tried to mix the GameCube and Game Boy Advance to have them play copacentically, which was possible, but was ridiculously expensive.
Yes, and it was also, fun little note, it was designed by Shigeru Miyamoto.
Himself working with it?
Apparently, that's what Wikipedia says.
Neat.
Okay. December 2nd, if you're a PC gamer, you could pick up a little game called Silent Hill 3.
No, with that one. It was one of the good ones.
Yeah, Silent Hill 3 is still when the series was good from memory. Again, I really want to get back into Silent Hill because I haven't played these games in a long time. I think like the first three are good.
It's kind of a series I know of, but I never really experienced. But it's kind of a case of the first exposure to it was the case of the fourth release of the game, The Room. And that's being like, this series kind of looks like it's on its last leg.
Yes, although we are getting a Silent Hill 2 remake, which, can't wait for that.
It should be interesting, but it's a case of what are they going to do to actually make it somewhat interesting? Because with how powerful systems are, they can't exactly take the old game and slap it into the new systems, because that does not work.
Oh no, it's a remake similar to like what they did with like Resident Evil, apparently.
Neat.
It's not just like let's just port it over and like make it look a little prettier. It's like they're rebuilding it from the ground up, is my understanding.
Neat.
Also on December 2nd, if you were a Game Boy Advance player, you could pick up a little game called The Sims Bustin' Out.
Because that was a thing. And I also remember it, but it's one that I never actually touched.
I never played Bustin' Out. I played some of the other ones, though. December 3rd, if you had a GameCube, you could pick up a game called Gotcha Force.
Yes. I got nothing.
You don't remember this game? I know, like, this is another one where I'm like, I know the box art, I just know nothing about the game.
Yes, the box art is similar, but it's yeah, I have no idea of any sort of gameplay for this particular one.
Yeah, it received mediocre reviews and apparently very little advertising, so that's probably why.
Yeah, that would most likely do the trick.
Okay, so December 5th, if you're an Xbox player in Europe, you could pick up a little game called Counter-Strike.
Hooray! Europe finally joins the fun.
They definitely do. December 8th, if you're a PS2 player, you could pick up Mission Impossible Operation Surma, I guess.
Again, neat.
December 9th, if you were an Xbox player, you could pick up Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Again, supposed neat, but it's again one of those movie title particular ones, and whether or not it was bad is most likely on the bad side, maybe.
It's also super weird because, like, that game came out in, like, 2000. It took them 3 years to get the game out.
Possibly, but it might have also been a case that it was just caught up in the backlog, and it's like, what's the next game we gotta release? How about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? Isn't that movie a bit old? And who cares? Someone will buy it. Slip it out there.
Yeah, it did not score well on reviews. Let us move on. December 9th, if you're a Game Boy Advance player, you could pick up Yu Yu Hakusho Spirit Detective. I probably butchered that pronunciation.
Just a tiny bit, but additionally, oh boy, not exactly sure how old this particular series, but oh man, it's been supposedly a while since they actually showed this in any sort of respect.
Okay. December 10th, if you were on the PS2, Dave. You could pick up a little game. I don't know why they released this around Christmas, but you could pick up a little game called Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly.
You know, that's the perfect Christmas game. What are you talking about?
Yes, the game where you have to fight ghosts with a camera.
And you have to try and save your sister from being suffered to a terrible fate of an evil town that has a very twisted, messed up way of doing things.
Yes. And December 11th, if you're a GameCube player, you could finally pick up Beyond Good and Evil.
Finally, get to play through the game and the neatness.
December 14th, if you're a GameCube player, you could pick up a game called Metabots Infinity.
Yes, because that was also a thing.
I have no memory of this.
It was only very vague, but again, typical anime series. They try to get a particular franchise started. Pokemon is a big thing, so they think, well, they used Monster for this. What if we take robots and make them battle partners for you? And it's like, brilliant!
Apparently the game is not very good. So
Understandable!
December 30th, our last game for the year. If you had a PS2, Xbox, or a GameCube, I don't know how this didn't come out before Christmas, but you could pick up a little game called Sonic Heroes.
It's Sonic Heroes.
Oh yeah, this is the one where we had all three on screen at the same time.
Indeed.
Hmm.
Which, on the one hand, was decently fun and interesting. On the other hand, had a very stupid and garbage way of actually getting to the end of the game. And on the third hand, that might be an issue, but that's for later, was decent enough, but was also kind of cheap in comparison to just how other Sonic games kind of went. It definitely seemed like this was one of the ones that they kind of had a decent concept for it, but didn't really have the budget to kind of really push the concept to it.
Yeah. My problem with the 3D Sonic games has always been that they have terrible cameras.
Yeah, always a big problem with 3D games.
But for some reason, it seems to affect Sonic more than everyone else.
Well, he does go fast.
This is true. And finally, we have two more games in the new year. So on January 5th, 2004, if you're a Game Boy Advance player, you could pick up Sonic Battle, which is a game I haven't thought about in 20 years.
Indeed, because it's one of those very small little games that if you weren't part of the crowd, it's like, wait, this happened?
Yeah, this, I remember it being okay, but, yeah. And our final game is on January 13th. If you were a PS2 or Xbox player, you could pick up a little game called Fallout Brotherhood of Steel.
Yes.
You're not, I'm assuming you're not familiar with Fallout Brotherhood of Steel.
No.
Okay, fair enough. It is now considered no longer canon. It was the last game that Interplay made before it was sold to Bethesda.
Okay. So, case of it's technically within the Fallout series, but not part of the Fallout chronological numberage.
Well, no, like Bethesda has basically said this game doesn't exist.
Duly noted. Most likely for the obvious reasons, or no?
I don't think it was bad. I think it was fine. Like, well, this is another one where it got weird reviews because like Eurogamer gave it 3 out of 10, and then GameSpot and IGN both gave it like 7.3 and 7.5.
Yeah. This is also around the times that, yes, there were reviews out, but there was also cases of, yeah, the company paid the person a copious amount of money to give them an actual good review.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, that probably still happens, but yeah, I really like Fallout, but I don't remember this game at all. Anyway, let us move on to the episode. Okay. Alrighty, so we start off in London in 1880. Recently sired, William, not yet Spike, meets Angelus for the first time. Angelus accepts William into the group, saying he looks forward to killing with another man. In the present, Spike demands his own office, or Wesley's office during his leave of absence while he adjusts to the shock of killing what he believed to be his father. We'll get into why Wesley isn't in this episode later. Spike lacks sympathy for Wesley since he himself killed his mother while she was hitting on him.
Because, that was the thing that happened.
Yep. Harmony opens a package for Spike from an unknown source, producing a flash of light when Harmony goes to answer the phone. She's greeted by electronic screeching. As the phone starts ringing off the hook, Spike heads for Angel's office, but when he tries to walk through the door, he finds that he is corporeal again, and immediately makes the most of his new body by having sex with Harmony.
Yeah, which surprisingly enough wasn't too hard. Which, on the one hand, starting, Harmony was like, dude, you dumped me and ditched me. There's no way I'm going. And then Spike gives her the look and says something sweet. And it's like, yeah, that's Harmony in a nutshell.
I'm taking a long lunch. It's so good. Alrighty. Fred arrives, complaining that all the atmospheric gauges in the science department have gone haywire and blown out all the instruments. She is surprised to hear that Harmony and the recorporealized Spike are, as Gunn says, having a nooner. Eve arrives and announces that the whole universe is in turmoil. Spike's existence is messing with the expected course of the Shanshu prophecy, because after dying on the Hellmouth to save the world, Spike now qualifies as a champion. Although this hadn't been a problem before when Spike was a ghost, now that he's flesh, the universe can't cope. Meanwhile, Harmony's eyes start bleeding as she bites Spike, screaming that he is using her and he really wants his Slayer whore. He returns to the group and Eve says because there are two possible candidates for the Shanshu, the Wheel of Destiny starts to spin off its axis. Gunn returns with news that the White Room is gone, replaced with a howling abyss. Eve thinks that the solution is in the Shanshu prophecy, but Angel says that he just read it and it wasn't helpful. Spike is surprised he has been reading the prophecy, which he claims not to believe in. They decide someone from Wesley's department needs to look over the prophecy. They meet with Cirque, who tells them that they read a translation and therefore didn't get everything out of it. He retranslates. The balance will falter until the vampire with the soul drinks from the cup of perpetual torment. Cirque says that whoever drinks from the cup is the one who will be destined to, and once will be the is the one who was destined to, and once the champion is decided, the universe will go back to normal. Kirk says that the cup is in a destroyed opera house in Death Valley, Nevada. Alright, and now we go back to 1880. Angelus and William celebrate a wedding massacre until William leaves to be with Drusilla, whom William calls his destiny. Shortly after, William discovers Angelus having sex with Drusilla. The two laugh at William, and Angelus taunts him with his earlier words. At the opera house, Spike and Angel battle it out for the cup, with Spike saying that Angel has already chosen the side of evil by working at Wolfram and Hart. In the science lab, Gunn begins bleeding from his eyes, warning Fred not to trust Eve. He starts choking Eve, demanding to know who she really is. Fred tends to Eve, who starts crying and says that she knows what all the group think of her and that she's not the bad guy. Back in 1880, William fights with Angelus for sleeping with Drusilla. Angelus tells him no one belongs to anyone and William should take Drusilla if he really wants her. William chooses to keep fighting. As Angel struggles in their fight, Spike tells him he knows why Angel can't stand the sight of him, because every time he looks at him, he sees the monster he created. As he repeatedly punches Angel in the face, Spike reminds him that every life he took and every terrible thing he did was because of him. And while Drusilla made him a vampire, he always considered Angel to be the one who made him a monster. At this point, Spike hits Angel with a cross despite it burning his hands. As he lands, Angel retorts that he didn't make the monster, just let him out. Spike isn't done, however, he believes Angelus tried to make Spike into another creature as terrible as him in the world, so that he could feel better about himself. Also, unlike Angel, he had his soul forced upon him. Spike fought demon trials so that he could be rewarded with one so that he could be a better man. Angel retorts that Spike only did it to try and have sex with Buffy, who never really loved him. Spike provokes him, saying that while Angel only had sex with Buffy twice, he did it plenty of times. What a dick. Anyway, provoked into a jealous rage by Spike's words, Angel quickly gains the upper hand, fighting more fiercely than before. Both furious, the fight continues more aggressively. However, for the first time in 100 years, Spike comes out the victor. He contemplates killing Angel, but stakes his shoulder instead, citing that he would dust him, but he doesn't want Buffy to bitch about it. Jesus Christ, Spike. Spike grabs a cup and Angel tells him that it's not a prize, it's a burden. Do you really want it? Or is that just something you want to take away from me? Spike replies, a bit of both, and drinks from the cup. His expression changes as he realizes the cup is filled with Mountain Dew. Angel returns to Wolfram and Hart with the news that the cup was a setup. Cirque has disappeared. Gunn and Harmony regain consciousness. Back in Angel's office, Eve tells everyone that the senior partners temporarily fixed things. She says that they don't know anything about Cirque's trick, and they are as angry as Angel is. He is soon seen brooding over something, and Angel confesses that even the cup was fake. Spike beat him for the first time ever, and was the one that managed to drink from it. As a result, Angel is starting to believe that this is proof that Spike is the vampire from the Shanshu prophecy, as not only is he stronger, but he wanted it more. Elsewhere in L.A., Eve arrives at an apartment and undresses, gloating to someone that Angel and Spike fell for the cup story, and Cirque disappeared without the senior partners knowing anything. In addition, the gang are wondering if they can trust the senior partners. She crawls into bed with a tattooed Lindsay. Well, it's a start, he replies. So, what do we think of this episode?
So on the one hand, at the start of things, Spike has a bit more influence within the story, which is always fun and interesting. And just going through a typical sort of story of needs to kind of go through the guy's point of view of stuff like that, which in some cases it works. And it could have been done about 3 times worse in other sorts of cases. So story-wise, it works from there. My God, the fact that that cup just had Mountain Dew in it. It's like the second worst evil.
Yes. Yeah, this was a pretty good episode.
But But additionally, it kind of throws a little bit more on Eve now, where first introduction, it's kind of case of she's part of the senior partners, they have their plan, and she's kind of either pushing to make sure that the evil gets done and make sure that Angel's crew doesn't get too far with things. But now, as it kind of sits, she's a bit more of either a free agent or a little bit more separated out of Wolfram and Hart, especially with Leslie now. What's
Lindsay.
he gonna be planning?
Yes. So Lindsay has returned after not being seen from a season 2 episode called Dead End, and he now has a whole bunch of tattoos on him.
He does that in his room.
Yes. Are you excited to see Lindsay back?
It'll definitely be interesting, but I think the one particular question that's running through my mind is what does he have in mind to get Angel back for the last trick that he pulled on him when he left?
There's going to be some shenanigans afoot.
Of course, because this is Angel and shenanigans are the meal of the day.
Yeah, things are going to happen. Anyway, I do have some trivia for this episode. You'll notice how Wesley doesn't appear in this episode.
Yes, because he's off because of supposed episode reasons, but most likely because of other reasons.
No, there was a real life reason he needed to not be on this in this episode. This episode was filmed during his wedding.
Okay.
Yes, he was off marrying Allison Hannigan at the time, and this is the only episode since he first appears in Angel that he won't be in.
Okay.
So there's a fun little piece of trivia. So yeah, we get Lindsay back in this episode. We get some more Darla, which I'm always happy to see, because Darla is so good.
Good. But again, it's kind of the case of they could only use her so much.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem. Is you can at this point you can only use her in flashbacks, and yeah. Anyway, let us look at some international titles in this one. So most of them are just Destiny, but there's two that aren't. So in German, it translates as the Cup of Torment.
You know, the MacGuffin of the episode that didn't really matter, but kind of spoils it.
And in Hungarian, it translates as the Cup of Perpetual Torment.
Which is a bit better because it's the technical name of the object.
Yes, and for those of you who are big toy collectors, there are 4 toys made of this episode. 2 of them are of Spike, and 2 of them are of Angel. I never really collected the Angel or Buffy toys that much, so I mean they're quite nice. Like Angel has like the cup of whatever, like he has the cup and like some stuff, but they're not great. I definitely wouldn't go out of my way. There are other toys in that particular series that I would rather pick up than those. Like they have the School Heart Spike, they have the 50s Angel, they have the Hawaiian shirt variants.
Which on the one hand is completely understandable, but on the other hand, it is not my jive for the particular toy collections with this series.
Yeah, I'll be honest, in my opinion, Buffy and Angel never really got good toys.
Which on the one hand, I suppose is understandable, but it's kind of one of those particular things with particular TV shows. It's one of the particular things that usually comes up. It's just kind of a case of to what kind of extent.
Well, and you figure like this is a kind of franchise that you could make so many toys out of.
True, but it's also a case of it's a bit more. Again, I'm not too much of an expert with it, but this show was not designed to sell toys. It was designed as a show first.
Yeah, no, but I just mean like between Buffy and Angel, like you've got the main cast, you've got side characters, and then you've got a whole bunch of cool like looking demons and stuff that you could make toys out of.
Hmm.
Like there's still plenty of, and I mean we haven't minor spoiler, but we haven't met all of the characters quite yet.
Yeah,
But yeah, I feel like that there was the opportunity to make better toys out of this franchise.
true, but I think the biggest thing is that it might have not been that much of a priority, or the particular studio at the time had other priorities to focus on with either getting the show out or making sure that there was enough to kind of work with.
Yeah, I mean, I think my bigger problem is that like the Buffy franchise as a whole doesn't have great merch.
Mm,
Like there's not really great merch. Anyway, let us move on. So next week we'll be discussing a little episode called Harm's Way.
oh dear, who's gonna be in the way?
Well, it's not quite that.
Oh dear.
um, it's a day in the life of Harmony.
Because of course it is.
Angel arranges an important truce meeting between two warring demon tribes through a demon rights activist. Already feeling unappreciated at work, Harmony's life in the office gets worse when she finds the demon rights activist dead in her bed one morning after a night of drinking. Knowing that Angel will kill her for causing the summit negotiations to break down, Harmony is desperate to find out who framed her for the murder.
Well, I suppose that's a day in the life, but I was expecting more of a just running through a typical sort of episode with everyone kind of having things happen around her.
No, there are also some really cool demon designs in this episode.
Neat.
Some that I am quite partial to. Yes, so that will be next week. So if there's nothing else to add, I have been Paul.
And I've been Dave.
Yay.